What's going on, y'all? I'm KMBest, he's Lambie Series. We are together 8 cubes, and we are here to talk to you about the 8 most important topics in Marvel Snap. Get your data download as fast as you possibly can. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. You can catch the next episode on my channel. And today, we're going to be starting off the conversation talking about Sera with the addition of Ghost, who has, in both Lambie's and my build, replaced the card Killmonger because Mobius is important in mirrors, is now a deck that has massive training wheels. Sera has typically been a little bit skill gated by the ability to identify when you need to throw priority in various matchups. Now Ghost puts that on rails for you. It's like bumpers in bowling. You no longer have to worry about that at all, and you get it on a 3/5 body, which is very aggressively costed for an effect that you generally are interested in having. This, of course, has pushed Sera to being a little bit more of an accessible deck. I think Lambie thinks it's probably the best deck in the game. I find it hard to argue with that. I do think one of the dynamics that's informing that is that Sera's point slam strategy, Ghost, Gladiator, Miss Marvel, is really not that far off any other deck point slamming. You think of it as reliant on the tech, but it can kind of just win on points a lot of the time, especially with Maximus in the deck. Lambie, where are you on Sera right now?
Yeah, so before we got this OTA and we got the 3/5 buffed, to me it's a buffed ghost, Sera was already making waves in the meta, right? Like it's been the best it's ever been. Like you said, a point slam strategy backed by Zabu, Miss Marvel, Gladiators, and all that kind of stuff. And then you have the tech as well. But then now Sera, so it was basically already kind of tier 1. But now Sera has gained another tool, which is the Ghost. Ghost at a 3/5. You are actually very happy to play a 3/5 Ghost. It's just big, right? It's huge. And also, it lets you do one thing which Sera couldn't really do in the past, because Sera in the past had to more or less always play from behind initiative, like from without priority, because you kind of want to use your tech to just get rid of stuff, right? But now you have the option of actually playing from an ahead position, looking at what's up on the field, what's up with your opponent's deck, and then playing the Ghost. And then on your final turn, you have all these stats on the board, which is already sort of like winning, and then you add on the tech you use to remove your opponent's stuff while already winning on the board. So Sera tech is to me now like strictly a super tier 1 deck. I would even dare say that in Conquest it's like possibly tier 0.5, 0.6, 0.7. The point is in Conquest
is
0.69, yes. The point is that in Conquest, a lot of your uncertainty goes out the window as the rounds get later, right? You get to see more of your opponent's deck. You know whether your SK will be relevant. You know whether your Shank will be relevant. You know how to plan your turns better. And similarly to Loki, the more you know about your opponent's deck, the better this kind of deck gets. So I'm very optimistic on the direction Sera is going right now. And like you said, it is actually slightly easier to play. Because in the past, you really had to like not play cards in like certain places or not play cards at all. But now you can, with the Ghosts, you have the option of just spending your energy, man. Like spending energy is good. Spend your energy, and then you can still counter them if you have the Ghost on the board while still being ahead on initiative beforehand. So it's really, really strong.
The other thing I wanted to ask about is like, all right, if you wanted to beat this deck, what do you do?
So the funny thing is, some of my retreats / losses were very well. People play things like Jane. It's a 5/8. They play stuff that I get outpointed by, and I cannot do anything about it. Right? Like it's just you lose by the smallest of margins. Like this deck, if you are losing by big margins, you're probably staying in the wrong games because your tech is irrelevant, or you have initiative, you have no Ghost, you can't SK, you can't Shank the huge Deadpool, the huge Now, the huge Death. But if you're losing, like when I'm losing those normal-ish games where they have like 5/8s on the board, they have like 4/6s, and it's just a little bit too big for Miss Marvel to cover. So I think decks that, like, funnily enough, Phoenix Force with the multiple man at it's like 8 power, right? And then like if you don't get to SK that thing, it's a bit scary, because basically 6, 7, 8 power is the bane of this deck's existence, because you can't deal with that. You can't do anything against those kind of stuff.
Yeah, last time we had a deck that was dominating the metagame and was relying very heavily on Shang-Chi and Enchantress, it ended up getting crowded out by the original Silky Smooth deck, right? Like that is what that was invented to beat.
It's very similar.
It's very similar in terms of how the metagame looks right now, because like you have all these guys who are running all this tech card. So if you just like play a deck that's like, I am going to curve out with points, and none of your tech cards are going to do anything. That is a very compelling pitch right now. I wanted to address some stuff that I've seen regarding Ghost's change being a nerf, which is one of the more ridiculous and outlandish opinions that I've seen. However, I think there is something behind it that is worth addressing. And so I'm going to expand from just talking about how 3/5 is a buff to Ghost and talk about how 3/5 would be a buff to basically any one drop in the entire game. It is very hard for me to imagine that any of those one drops that you play for their abilities would not be significantly better at 3/5. Here's why. One drops are bad in Marvel Snap, almost overwhelmingly so. The worst cards in the game in terms of win rate almost always end up being one drops. Cards like Angel or Uatu are always at the bottom of those win rate charts. The reason for that is because you are playing them for an ability, but they are not worth the slot in your deck. One drops are very difficult in terms of being worth the slot in your deck if you are not doing something egregiously broken with them. Hood and bounce stuff, for example. Otherwise, what's happening is you are playing a 1/2, which maybe has some upside, but the issue that 1/2 has is your opponent, who did not play anything on turn 1, plays a 3/5 in that lane on turn 3, and suddenly your 1/2 is doing very little at all. 3/5, and really I think the breakpoint is 5, where it suddenly starts being a meaningful threat in the lane is 5 and above. People talk about like why costing 2 is a superpower, and we had the realization that that is because you can win a lane with a 4-drop. 4-drops win lanes. But that's because there aren't a lot of 3-drops that are bigger than 5. Most 3-drops tend to be smaller than 5. The reason 4-drops win lanes is because they're the cheapest things that get past that breakpoint, basically, where it's like, actually, this is bigger than everything played in the lane before it. And 5 is about as small as you can go and still be a reasonable threat on the board, I think. And Ghost does make that happen. So, like, I want to be super clear. If you took Korg and made Korg a 3/5, that would be a massive buff. That would be a huge, huge, huge buff to the card. If you took Nico Minoru and made her a 3/5, that would be a huge buff to the card. Like, these are all, almost every one drop that you would play would be better if it were a 3/5. I just want to get that out there.
Yeah, I agree actually, because the more I think about it, it's not just it has to be a 3 cost, right? It literally has to be a 3/5. Like based on the amount
It's
of
the
like
5.
because like I think that the biggest winning factor here and deciding factor here is that like playing a 3/5 allows you to sort of skip like the turn 1. Like you don't feel so bad about missing your turn 1 if you have a 3/5, right? Like you
Yeah.
can have a 2, like, and then you have a 3/5, and then your turn 1 not playing a card is like sort of insignificant. So yeah, I agree. I just wanna like mention that like I actually never really thought about it this way before, but now that you've mentioned it, yeah, I think that might actually be the break point, right? Like
I
the
think it's
fact that
5. I think the 5
yeah,
is
it's 5. It's 5. That's
like,
all I gotta add. I think you're right.
yeah, it's something that I've been kicking around with recently because it's like, I've been trying to understand why it is that there are so few good 3-drops. And the reason is that none of them win lanes. And they're almost all smaller than 5. Like, why is Cyclops off of High Evo so good? It's because it's a 3-drop that wins a lane. Like, that's why. It's like one of like the 2 3-drops that can actually present a real threat in a lane. And that is very rare. Like, why was Werewolf so good other than not being like very obviously broken? Like, the fact that it was a 3-drop that didn't suck was unique about it. And I think that like this is like almost any 1-drop would be a better card if you made it a 3/5. Almost any of them.
Yeah, like Gladiator's a 3/8. Cyclops is 3/8 usually or better, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, if Swordmaster if
Yeah.
Swordmaster was a 3/7, I'd probably be looking at this card again. But you know.
Yeah, that's how bad 3s are. Hulkbuster is a 2/3 now, and my analogy for this type of card is like, okay, Hulkbuster went from Feast or Famine, and now it is similar to like current Rock Slide. I think that's the analogy I would draw for this kind of nerf, which is like, yeah, okay. Normally, what we do here is we keep your high roll intact and take off the consistency. We can't find a good way to do that. So we're gonna take off some of the high roll and give you a little bit of consistency instead. And that's what this Hulkbuster feels like to me. Are you a destroy gamer right now, Lambie, or are you just like, I will farm it so hard with Ghost Sera?
I'm very on the fence about this Hulkbuster. Like, I don't actually know if it's a strict downgrade. Okay, so obviously the Deadpool scaling is like way worse, right? Because Deadpool doubles and doubles, so any point loss is definitely a loss. But like the fact that it's cheaper, right? I've been testing it a bit. It fits into the curve of a destroy deck like
Yeah.
way better. Like on turn 2 you play Wolverine, then you can pop it with Deathlock. Then on turn 4 it's like Hulkbuster plus Carnage. Like it just fits way better. But of course, going all in on like one big like buff dude is like the ultimate SK food, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So I don't want to call it a strict downgrade. This is specifically for destroy. But I think that there's more testing that needs to be done with the card. I'm really enjoying the fact that it actually fits nicely into my curve right now. But yeah, obviously this is not very popular in the game right now, but like I know people have been complaining about, oh, my multiple mans are very small right now
Okay.
because I can't go multiple men
I
into
know one
Hulkbuster.
person who's been complaining about that.
Yeah,
Like,
I also know one person.
yeah.
Exactly. Only one person.
Spider-Man 2099 sucks. I mean, he used to
Sucks.
suck, but he still does too. So, Lambie, where are you with the new gigantic 5'9", probably bad Spider-Man 2099?
This guy is so sad. Like, firstly, the effect is so cool, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
a unique effect. It's like such a unique effect. But we've known since like months ago that it's so hard to trigger this unique effect, right? And in the past they had one extra way, which is like in the past you could like play this on 4 before it was nerfed, and then you can use cloak on turn 5. That's one way. Now you can't do that. Now you can't even cloak it on like you can't cloak on turn 6 because turn 6 the game ends, right?
Yep.
So it's one complete use case completely gone. And I feel like this is a strict downgrade because like it's already so hard to activate this effect. Now it's like removing one other way is like almost impossible. And I don't see this card like doing anything outside of like if you really want to play this card. You go like you play this card on 5 and then you Heimdall. The most standard stuff that every move player does, just play Heimdall. But like no, this card could be like a 4. Yeah, just leave it at 4 and make it like a 4-7 or 4-8. Like I think that would do something instead of making it a 5-9. The cost is too important here. In fact, we were talking about 3-5s, right? Make this a 3-5, I swear. If this is a 3-5, I promise you it will see play.
I
I will
actually
play
think it
this card
wouldn't,
at
because if it's
3-5.
a 3-5, it's just like, oh, that's worse Vulture.
It depends, right? Because Voucher is pure stats. This is like 3-5 Shang-Chi, a sort of Shang-Chi effect at 3-5. You get one more turn to use the effect, and I think that's like super important, right? Because we talked about like cloak on turn 5 to move it after you play on turn 4. Now you can play cloak on turn 4 to move it, or you can like have one more turn to draw a card to like benefit from the 2099 that's coming now on turn 3, that kind of thing. So yeah, but okay, that's digressing because it's not the way it is right now. The way it is right now, it's the 5-9 and nobody nobody likes it. I liked it for like 10 minutes, then I realized that actually it's worse. Then I didn't like it anymore.
You just tried to put it in Thanos, didn't you?
I tried to because
Yeah.
Time Stone into
Space
but
Stone,
I
yeah.
realized that it was
Yeah.
horrible. After 10 minutes, I gave up.
I will say, what I find interesting about the 2099 debacle is
Okay.
if you were to make up a big move card, what would it have to be? Like if you were to like be like, I want a move card that's payoff, but it costs 5. What does that look like?
Okay, I know the exact card. I don't really know the exact stat line, but it's okay. Think of Hercules as a
Okay.
5 cost, maybe a 5-9 or 5-8. That its effect is literally when you play a card in this location, move it somewhere else.
No,
It has to
a
be
payoff,
that level.
not an enabler. A payoff.
Oh, pay off.
Yeah, like if you wanted to pay off for the move archetype, but it cost 5.
A 5 cost payoff.
Yeah.
It has to move itself, man. Like honestly,
See,
I think it has to
like,
move itself.
It can't exist, right? Like,
Yeah, it has to
and I
move
think
itself.
that's also true of a 4 cost payoff. The only way those cards are ever good. Here's the design I came up with. Okay, it's a 5-9, and when it moves, it gets +10.
Oh, okay.
You play that.
I get what you mean. Like, it has to be big, right? It has to be a really big payoff,
It has
right?
to be completely enormous. Like it has to be. Like,
No, that
the
makes
biggest
sense
card
because
of
it
all
has to be
time.
like 5-9, and then on turn 6 you must want to play Ghost Spider to juke it, right? If
Or
not,
Heimdall,
like
yeah, but like
yeah, if the payoff is not big enough, what's the point? Yeah,
it
I get
has
it.
to be.
Yeah, that
It
makes
has
sense.
to be like the biggest, dumbest idiot you could ever imagine. And I
Yeah.
can't figure out like. Obviously, 2099 doesn't fit that bill, but it's like I feel like they need to be more ambitious if they're gonna try to make a 5 cost move payoff a thing. But it's like actually think about that, right? Like if it was like a 19, You could go like Ghost Spider Taskmaster. Oh wait, no, you
Yeah,
couldn't. No, you couldn't do
yeah.
that. That was not how Taskmaster worked. Damn it.
But you want to do it.
Yeah,
You
you
want to
want to do
pull something
something.
and make it plus 10, right? Like you'll be
Yeah.
incentivized to actually play
Yes.
that.
It'd be cool, right? What if you pulled it twice? You know, what if you did like
Yo.
yeah? What if you did like Iron Fist into it, and then you Taskmaster Ghost? I don't know. Just like there could be cool things to do there. I don't know. Just like yeah, if you wanted to make a 5 cost move payoff, it would have to be like
Super powerful.
The infinite big is what we're talking about.
Yes.
Super Giant. It is not lost on me that this metagame tends to revolve around powerful 5 cost cards. We have, of course, Jane Foster and Sera as premier cards in the current metagame right now. And Super Giant on turn 4 will absolutely take a hammer to those decks. And I think that is like a really important understanding of what Super Giant's use case actually is here, where I consider her, she's like Shang-Chi, but for Jane, Leech, and like Sera decks. Like if you want to have like a card that's just like I want to shit on that thing, that'll do it. That'll be how you do it. Super Giant's existence is like a blessing for people who are sick of that crap. And I personally think she's the most interesting card coming out next month because she is the one that is the weirdest. And I am very compelled by her. I think I like that she has a 4/5 body. I like that, like, it's again, like, it's that 5 breakpoint, right? If she was smaller, I'd be like, I don't know. But 4/5, it's like, hey, you know, like, that's like Enchantress sized. I could see myself using an Enchantress slot on that. The other thing she does is she can really mess up combo decks. Like, obviously, if you're playing MODOK, you get completely housed. If you are playing various things, you end up getting, like, kind of completely obliterated if you're, like, playing Shuri, for example, because the thing that you're shurying doesn't show up until after your Taskmaster. It gets very depressing for you very fast. And like she just has a lot of like wide-ranging utility that I'm pretty excited for. What about you?
Honestly, this card is hands down the card that I'm the most excited for in January and February combined, I'll be most excited for Super Giant, honestly. Because this card, right, is a kind of disruption and floodgate that we've never had in the game before. It's basically asking you and your opponent to play a bit in the unknown. But the thing is, you have a bit more agency with it, right? Because, like, let's say you know what deck they're playing, you know they have like a big 5 cost combo, or like their deck needs like a bit of setup. Like, heck, even if they drew a late Phoenix Force, this is crazy, right? For example, because not letting your opponent's cards flip is something that we've never had, and like if you have control over that, especially if you're like possibly like a tempo deck, it's super powerful. Obviously there's a bit of guesswork involved, right? Because the cards don't flip and you also have to do a bit of guessing if it's what you think it is. But the thing is, you have control over this. Like, you know, you have the control of when to play this Super Giant. And also I want to mention, like, it's a 4 cost, so if you have Zabu, there's a good chance you can play it on 3. If you really want to stop something on turn 3, I don't really know what that might be, but you could possibly stop something on turn 3, right? Like you go Zabu into, you play this thing.
4. The way she works,
right, you stop stuff on 4, yeah.
On the next turn, right? So like you'd stop on Loki or whatever.
Basically, like 1 turn earlier as well. You have the option with Zabu, so it's kind of super interesting, like a super giant, super interesting. And I think at a 4/5, it's a good stat line for something so powerful. I mean, I say it's powerful, but it's speculative. But I believe that it will definitely impact the meta.
One interesting thing that she does is like kind of dunk on Lockjaw a little bit. Because like Lockjaw
pretty hard,
putting
actually.
like one thing in there each turn, and it's like, well, if they're all getting revealed at the same point, does Lockjaw flush? I actually don't know. Because like she says it reveals at the end of the game. Does Lockjaw reset when the turn ends? Will it flush again? That's actually a really interesting question, I think.
Yeah.
I think it should.
I'm assuming it's 1 time.
Yeah, it should be.
Like if you play 3, it's only 1.
Yeah. Zabu right now is subsidizing why this metagame feels good. I think there are, you know, many decks you can be playing, but like 5 different decks are just Zabu decks, and so it feels a lot more open than it is. Like I'm playing a Zabu Beta Ray Bill, and the other Zabu Beta Ray Bill, and Sera, and Darkhawk, and you know, the bounce
Loki.
deck, Annihilus, Loki. There's a bunch of different Black Knight, right? There's like 7 Zabu decks, so the meta feels a lot better than it probably is, because the dominant thing that's actually happening is those like 7 Zabu decks are just chopping up the meta share between them. And there are like, I will say this for Zabu decks, like for being similar, they do actually play quite differently. Like there is a lot of difference between playing like, you know, Annihilus Bounce and playing something along the lines of like Beta Ray Bill, even though they look and are built extremely similarly, they play very differently in terms of known and unknown information. And it is very interesting that like these decks are probably the best decks in the game. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's like, it is notable that tech cards are defining the boundaries of Marvel Snap, but that's probably good because what it means is people haven't properly adapted the way we did last time, a la Silky Smooth, right? Like that is the main thing that I wanted to talk about. People like, yo, Shang-Chi, Zabu, Enchantress, they're everywhere. How do I beat this? And we actually already know the answer. So I just wanted to get some people's wheels spinning on that because the way to beat that stuff is to make them have blank cards in the deck. And you can do that by making sure there's no targets for the Shang and the Enchantress. And that will allow you to compete on an axis that they simply cannot. The actually interesting thing for me about these current Sera decks is that they are so good at just winning on points that it becomes harder to come up with a deck that can beat them on points consistently, even while you're blanking the tech, which I think is a remarkable statement to make. There's just a lot of really good bodies in the Sera deck.
Yeah, this is the point I actually wanted to cover, but then you mentioned it as well. But I'm going to reinforce it, which is that, like, before we go like deeper into Zabu and on my point, but like, I do you realize that like when Silky Smooth was a thing, there wasn't a 414 walking around. Like
Yes.
it's this 414 makes it very hard to blank the Sera deck because like you turn your Enchantress on like the left location on the final turn into like a +10 because the Miss Marvel is in the middle. Like it's so hard to blank these kind of tech decks nowadays. So I think really it's also because of Zabu as well, right? Zabu really is like to me the best cost reduction. Like it's even better than Sera.
Correct.
Firstly, for a few reasons, it comes down earlier. You can play it earlier. It's cheaper, and then you can build up the turns thereafter into like 4 costs on 3, 4 costs on 4, for example. And of course, at the same time, the cards that are supported by Zabu are crazy, right? It's all the best cards in the game: the Shanks, the Enchantresses, the Iron Lads, the Miss Marvels, the 414 herself. Like everything is supported on the back of this is Zabu right now. So I feel like it's very rightfully correct and like it makes a lot of sense that everything good is a Zabu deck for the most part, right? Beta Rebuild, Sera, Loki, Black Knight, whatever. Like everything good is a form of Zabu deck. And yeah, so I think Zabu, we talk like this, but I still don't want to see Zabu get nerfed because I feel like it's a necessary evil. Like I know people have been talking about maybe dropping a power here and there or like something else, but like nah, I think Zabu's fine. Like it's good cost reduction that's needed and doesn't need a nerf. That's my take on Zabu right now. Everything is just, I mean, instead of like trying to think of nerfing Zabu, maybe we should think of like making something better in terms of cost reduction or just better things to do. Outside of 4 cost cards being just too OP right now.
Speaking of adding or removing a point, Heimdall just got a point of power, and everyone's reaction was basically, I don't care, it'll still suck. And I think that is exactly the situation that there should be giving cards points of power in. So I want to know what your picks are for cards that can be Heimdalled, which is the term I'm coining for just giving something a point of power and knowing it'll still suck. Are there any cards that really come to your mind that can just get an extra point of power and be totally fine?
So basically the question is cards that get 1 point of power and we still don't care about it, right?
Yes, that is the question.
I think Hercules firstly is the first one that comes to mind.
So 4/8?
4/8, no one will play the card.
4/8 Hercules. See, that's just like better crossbones. I think you might just play that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. Okay, actually true. Yeah, okay, yeah, you play it. It's better crossbones. Okay, so we can't do that to Hercules. What else? What else? Like, not we had this 3/5 discussion earlier, so I'm very careful about turning 3/4s into 3/5. So I think anything that's a 3/4 right now should stay as a 3/4.
I've got one for you.
Yeah.
Black Panther. That's arguably even a
That makes it worse.
Yes!
Yeah, because of the Shang, right?
Like we made it worse. We gave it an extra
power. I have a few now that I think about it. Like,
okay.
We talked about this so heavily about the 1 cost. Once if you make Uatu a 1/3, you make Howard a 1/3, you would still not play those cards, right? Same thing.
You would play
same thing.
Zoo,
it's because
maybe? I can see you
no, but we are going back to you thinking Zoo is good, but Zoo is not. So
okay, yeah, so Zoo's not good, but like you would at least think about it if they were 1/3s.
Yeah, true. Would you play Martyr at 1/6?
I would sincerely consider it. Yes.
Yeah, true. All right, let's think of something else. What else is bad? Like,
Okay.
still, even if you get 1 point of power.
Here's how about Jean Grey?
Oh yeah, I still wouldn't play Jean. Yeah,
Yeah.
true. I would play a 3/4 Jean.
Yeah, 3/4
I
Jean.
like how you're so good at coming up with these like
I'm
answers
looking
to
at
the
a list
bad
of all the cards
questions.
right now.
Oh, that's cheating, man.
I'm
I have
cheating.
No
what are you? We're making content here. Get out. Leave me alone.
Okay, Gambit at 3/4. I don't think it would make him more playable.
Who?
Nah, Gambit. I don't think it would make him more
yeah, I don't
playable.
think that would do anything either. Yeah, he'd be in the exact same decks that he's currently in.
All right, this could go on forever. I think we should just end it right now.
No, I got one more that I really like.
All right.
Rhino.
Nah, we never play Rhino.
We never play Rhino. Yeah,
we never play Rhino. Cerebro 3 just lost location destroyer.
Oh my god, dude. The Cerebro 3 people who are mad about losing Luke Cage, like, that is the coolest thing on earth to me, because it's like, oh my god, our mid deck just got more mid. We're never gonna financially recover from this. Let's talk about Magneto, who I have just found to be absolutely phenomenal recently.
Yes.
Like, this guy is so good.
Mad.
There's so many 3s and 4s. Like, we talked about how so many of these decks are just Zabu decks, right? And like, those Zabu decks, when they're not playing Zabu, have 3 drops in them to curve out, because they're either playing, you know, Thor stuff with the Jane and the Beta Ray Bill, so they got a Thor there. God forbid you ruin their lives by like pulling Thor and Beta Ray to the same lane, by the way. Kills them entirely. And then like even the Sera decks, there is a 3 on the board almost every single time, Ghost or going to be a Gladiator, and so you get to just like, actually, your entire game plan that you did, that Miss Marvel in the middle, it's not there anymore. Goodbye. And I think that's just a really sick thing to do.
Yeah, so I want to add to this point and also like further cement the fact that like Magneto is just a god card right now. Like, so we mentioned a bit earlier, like actually quite a bit earlier, like in the first topic, we talked about like how this deck, Sera deck loses is you just lose by like losing the points race, right? Another way that you actually really lose with this deck, like I'm trying to like reference my Thanos experiences, like playing against Thanos with this Sera deck. Like I can have everything. I can have the Zabu, the Sera setup, even the Ghost to attack from behind and stuff like that. But the moment they get the Magneto down like on 5 or like even on turn 6 sometimes, Magneto is just crazy strong right now. Like I'm actually losing more to Magneto than like not having the tech to kill their cards. Like I can have the tech to kill their cards and then still lose because the Magneto just like makes me unable to get a 414 on the board because like it just invalidates my Miss
It's all
Marvel.
about the 414.
It's like, so strong. Like Magneto is so strong right now. Like I like once again, Thanos mirrors Magneto on turn 5. Like you time stone on turn 4, then you play Magneto on turn 5, logging out a lane because everything is 3s and 4s, right? Like Kyra, Wave, Lockjaw itself. Like it's so strong. Like timing a Magneto and like I've seen so many snapbacks on Magneto. And like people just fall for the trap because like they don't realize that like, oh, they get clogged or like their lockjaw gets pulled into the lane where they want to play their blob early or whatever. Like it's crazy. Like Magneto is just one of those cards. Like I'm not saying that it's better than Doom. I think this will come up eventually. It's not really better than Doom in the general scheme of things, but I think like now, like now specifically, I fear this card way more than Doom.
It's better right now. Like,
yeah,
right
actually,
now,
yes.
it is
now,
better.
I think it's better
because of all, like, this is a 3s and 4s meta. People are playing Thor Beta Ray Bill, and that strategy gets so owned by Magneto. It's honestly not even
just Miss Marvel, right? Just Miss Marvel alone. Like the best card in the game is wrecked by Magneto. So,
like, if you're not playing Thor Beta Ray, you are playing Miss Marvel. You are playing a Gladiator. You are playing a Ghost. You are doing something that this guy absolutely ruins. And if you're doing a bunch of math, I gotta tell you, playing against this card is such a pain in the ass because you end up in this situation where it's like, all right, I can play around Magneto here, or I can play around Magneto here. Like, he creates his own Goliath minigame where it's like, okay, I can beat left Magneto, but not middle Magneto. I hope they don't middle Magneto. It's a very, very, very fun, and I honestly do think this is the best time for Magneto since he's been out.
Since forever, yeah.
This is
and I think the biggest thing that I just want to stress this again, like, Miss Marvel's a 414, but in the face of Magneto, she's a 4/4. Like, that's how crazy good Magneto is right now because the whole game revolves around like Miss Marvel, Zabu, like for the most part. We've been talking about this for every single topic, right? Zabu, we got the Zabu topic, we got like Miss Marvel OP, Sera OP topic. But one Magneto can just change all of that.
Yep. play more Magneto.
Yes, Magneto.
So Lambie's going to be missing. End of the month, there's going to be a couple weeks there. And we're going to have some sick guest hosts. I'm really excited about who I could get here. I'm still in talks. I'm not going to... These are like the kind of people where it's like, I can't replace Lambie. I'd be lucky to get them for one time ever. And the fact that I can like coincide here it's going to be pretty sick if I can pull it off. So please do stay tuned for that. And of course, remember to like and subscribe right here on Lambie Series' channel. You will not be missing anything. We're going to miss at most 1 week at the end of the month on this channel. We're going to make sure that you get your content on this channel, Lambie Series' channel. No misses. All right? Lambie, I just hit the mic. Take us out.
Okay, so Sera, I was just listening to you. But yeah, if you like what you just heard, do drop a follow, a like, and a subscribe, and comment down below, and we will see you in the next one.
Thanks so much.